INEC may postpone the presidential election by 2 weeks, and also the issue of the scarcity of the new naira note is still pending. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies. I'm Sarah Elisha Dashum, and of course I have Rachel here with me. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Have this new naira note affected you in any way? Have you been finding it difficult to withdraw anything?
It has, because you're always working on eggshells. It's like you don't know whether you will get or you don't. So you're extremely careful with the money you have, and you're also having it at the back of your mind. Let me not be stuck with an old naira note. Let me not be stuck with an old naira note. So yes, in a lot of ways, it's affecting. I think it's affecting everybody, I included. So yes, it has been affecting.
Well, we'll just be hoping that something will be done about that, Rachel.
So.
And to our viewers, remember we're live on Facebook and also on YouTube, so you can do well. Drop your comment, drop your contribution on any story that's of interest to you this morning. And also later on, we'll open the phone line so you can be part of it by calling us to give us your views about what you feel about any story that's of interest to you. Let us quickly run through the paper, and Rachel will be taking us through Daily Independent.
On Daily Independent, don't extend February 10 deadline. Atiku urges CBN, and this is on the Naira redesign, says anti-democratic forces working against Apex Bank. Wike withdraws approval for stadium used for Atiku's rally. And the big story, INEC may postpone presidential election by 2 weeks. The writer says 729 ballot boxes, 243 cubicle lost as gunmen attack Anambra INEC office. Tinubu's threat on our Lagos Lodge, insult to our people, the Akwa Ibom government. We're not battling corruption to impress anybody, President tells TI. Nigeria's keys into single African airspace set to implement SBAS, and you can read that on page 7. Obaseki's group floors obese PDP faction at Supreme Court. No victor, no vanquish. Let's unite to rescue Nigeria, coming from the governor, and you can read that on page 6. Still on the Daily Independent, on 2023 poll, why Buhari is not backing any presidential candidate coming from the federal government. El-Rufai's sabotage claim against Tinubu at Villa not new, coming from APC PCC. At the downside of the paper, Sanwo-Olu delivers an open 18.7 kilometer 6-lane Ele-Ko-Epe expressway, and you can read that on page 6, and we have a picture story showing that also. And that's all the news on Daily Independent.
You know, Richard, I really love us to look at the big story. INEC may postpone the presidential election by 2 weeks. Just when we are having the countdown for like less 23 days or so to the presidential election. And just yesterday on the paper was when we saw INEC complaining about difficulty they are having concerning logistics, that's transporting their officials, their INEC registrars, and then also some of the materials they'll be needing. Even though people are of the opinion that, I remember INEC saying that everything's already set, and we're still seeing not there possibilities or speculations of things like this. And I just hope that as a nation we will learn to stick to our word, so that we will learn to be respected at the end of the day. That when you give a deadline, you should follow up, so that Nigerians will know that you mean business. I'm not blaming INEC, but I'm just hoping that the federal government will put their hands together to see what can they do to be able to avert the fact that this election might be postponed. We remember that this is not the first time we're having issues where a general election has been postponed. We had that in 2015, we had that in 2019, where the election was being postponed, and there are people who have to transport themselves maybe from the rural areas because their polling unit was in the city, or those who had to transport themselves from the city to the rural areas because that is where their polling unit is, got fed up, angry, and that is where we have voters' apathy. People are no longer interested in going to vote. And these are part of the things that can actually stand as a threat to this election. When we are needing everybody to come out to the polls on, February 25th, pin down their vote, whoever the candidate they want to vote, and then we're seeing this logistic. We're looking at attack by gunmen. This is not the first place we're having. We had that in Imo State, and Enugu, Anambra, and then these are things you begin to so that we will not have a situation where voters will not come out on the election.
One is uncertainty. Like, Nigerians need to be sure where we are heading towards. We need to be sure that that they are ready for election. And I, with many others, trusted that INEC were ready. If we had comments coming from the APC challenging the capability of INEC, their readiness, INEC kept on pushing that they are ready. Now, you just mentioned the fact that we've been having election being shifted over the years. It's either INEC are trying to show us how they are incompetent or they are not preparing the right way. Because whether we like it or not, this is a system that we know after every 4 years, there's going to be election. And INEC have had the time to prepare for 4 good years. That, you know what, after 2050, there was going to be election 2019. After 2019, we are going to more than 8 years. Help. What about the logistics? What about the logistics? By now, every equipment, every tool, every INEC needs for election should have been in the various state, in the various will hold. In the papers yesterday, we have where NNPCL say they will supply fuel to. So with the fuel scarcity, life keeps going on in Nigeria. And whether we like it or not, election is very crucial. It's one of those things that shouldn't be tampered with as said, and can't wait for a change in government in this country. We all know Nigeria. So let INEC show us that they are very competent. And what we don't need right now is for them to start saying may or may not pick up and do the needful. We want to believe that you had 4 years of preparing for election. We've been trying to tell us that they didn't sit down and put a plan B or C in case any of this problem comes up. So I just hope that INEC sits down and do the right thing, because truly Nigerians want to vote. And I don't want to imagine where we won't vote on the 25th.
Of course, just like I said, Richard, I'm not actually blaming the INEC, but I'm just hoping that the government will do something, the government of the will do something. Even though here on the show, I've raised because of our population.
Yes,
and I remember there was a time where they also complained about, because of the attack in their facility, there are possibilities that they will want to, maybe the election will not hold in particular parts of the country. And we know later on they said we shouldn't worry, everything will be calm. So I'm just hoping that they will come back and give us reassurance that regardless of what it is, elections will hold on the February 25th. Well, let's take a look at the leadership newspaper. Hoodlums destroy police and INEC offices, kill teenager in Anambra State. That you can find on page 22. Supreme Court sack voucher at Taraba APC Guba candidate. You can follow up that story too. And we have independent marketers are sure of availability of fuel soon, which we are all expecting. Nigeria's economy to shrink by 0.3% from 3.2%. And just yesterday was when we were giving that our economy is at 3.2. Now we're seeing that it might shrink to 0.3. So for our business lovers, if you want to know more about that, you can read that story on page 2. Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, Kwankwaso differ on loan repayments, and you can read that on the front page and also page 7. No bank chief challenged CBN on quarters lament cash crush, and we have NLC blames corruption, systematic failure for scarcity. So actually ease this hardship on citizens, because every ATM you go right now, you see lots of Nigerians sitting down hoping that the cash will be made available for them. So we hope that the CBN is positive for Lassa fever in Benue. I'm just today. And I remember the word of this root stuff that you are not sure or you do not wash the vegetable. At the end of the day, you fall a victim. So I hope that the commissioners of health, what causes Lassa fever, how you can prevent yourself, so that we have this number of Lassa fever, and then they quickly rush to sit. So
and then we insert your if it is this any germ. So I think the about
by grabbing the leadership newspaper to read more detail on the meeting.
Timing salary influence. Anambra 7 Dan Suleiman died presidential campaign coming from the Yobe from paper. newspaper, Tales of Woes as Nigerians lament shortage of naira and the queues at our banks. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Honestly, Rachel, I would like to talk source stories where some bankers were I have to pay 1,000 naira. And it's sad, Rachel, because these people are beginning to take advantage of the fact that people do not want to follow this long queue. Why? Because the naira is short. You cannot get it. There are certain ATM machines that are not dispensing the new naira note. And then if you need the new naira note, there is a price attached to it. And this is not just about the naira note, but it goes to even other things we do. If you buy any good, for instance, you can buy maybe a soft drink or so, and then you see 150 is written on the soft drink. But how much will you buy it? 200 naira. You begin to ask, why do we find so much pleasure in adding prices to everything? So I don't know what the DSS is doing, honestly, but in as much as I know that they are trying their best to make sure that they check all of this thing, but I think they should intensify their research and arrest more, because we still have lots of POS, I believe, that are still running some shady business, working maybe with some bankers somewhere. But DSS will actually intensify their work so that they can make life at least ease the hardship on citizens, because it's no longer getting funny, Rachel.
It's not. I think the exploit is too much, and of course we started, for example, and they make read what you didn't know is only expected. Even the banks have done as they've gone overboard. It's too much.
Yes. 9 Nigerian banks. You can find that story on page 27. No favorite candidate, says the U.S. envoy. And we have a presidential candidate, Wike, frustrated, lacks integrity, says the party campaign committee. You can find that story on page 13. And on sabotage, Tinubu campaigners back El-Rufai minister defends Buhari. The big story, which is still on new naira scarcity, Sokoto, Zamfara. The new naira note must pay in CFA, traders insist. Banking halls empty. LCCI says naira swap poor effect. And we can see the picture story here where the ICPC are actually going around, arresting.
We're not surprised, says Alaki. Aisha Buhari posters hand over COVID-19 DNA vaccine candidate for precursors. Tinubu's victory at poll not known. Court set aside Judge Grow Fed on page 4-5 function.
Care of coming from the DSS, PC on their tool to do that. Says party lead Atiku government will concern me. More of that story, and see also where grab the paper and read any story. The Dailies that fuel scarcity will end in 2 weeks, so that your loved ones can also be part of what
the newspapers and we're talking about. And as a country, we have all the reason that people want to be reasonable, but forward to the ministry, putting in all the
have the potential of making Nigeria to be great. But I think it's left for the people who, just like the Equatorial
men in the PDP, Paul Obiodun. If you want to know why he's working, he says,
"Can even give 20,000 now to 10,000 naira. You can't even."
Rabba, we hope don't wait. Stayed on the Nation newspaper police station in Anambra State. I planned for betrayal. I planned for backstabbing long before they happened. That is coming from Tinubu, so you can read more of that story. And we have on the presidential Sokoto AP